Hi, cuties. It's the most wonderful time of the year, aka Love Island USA premiered this past Tuesday, and we've had 3 episodes so far, and I just am simply obsessed. I love the show Love Island. Honestly, it gets better as you get older. I'm 31 now, and when I was in my 20s, I would watch these shows and be like, I want to be on there. And I would like take lessons, I would take flirting tips. I honestly, all dating shows are a little bit of like competitive people pleasing, and as a born people pleaser, I was like taking notes, figuring out how I could better people please than these people, blah blah blah. But once you come into yourself and you stop competitive people pleasing and you stop being like, my goal and my dream in life is to be on this reality dating show, things get a lot better. I'm really excited. It's only been 3 days and I'm already absolutely obsessed with the cast. They're hot, they're beautiful, they're silly, and they're dramatic, and I absolutely love it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to cover the astrology of the women on Love Island USA so far. So we have the 4 original cast. We have Chelley, Bella, Olandria, and Huda, not covering Ulissa, who was kicked out day 2. Good riddance. She's not quite important. And the 1 female bombshell that we have so far, Cierra. I'm going to look at the charts for all of these girls and share with you a little bit of insight into their personality based on what I see in their astrology charts. I'm also going to talk about how their chart placements have manifested in Love Island so far and hopefully insert some fun clips. I will be doing the boys' charts in another episode. It was just a lot to put all in one video, so we're going to get to that shortly, but girls are more important anyway. Also, this video will contain spoilers from the first 3 episodes of Love Island USA Season 7. If that's something that you don't want to hear, be warned. Also, I'm going through these charts in alphabetical order. If I was going through them in order of my favorites, obviously Chelley and Olandria would be right at the top, but we're going through alphabetical, so we are starting with Bella. Bella, aka Belle-Dasha, which Nick called her in the most recent episode, and it was sort of like, wait, that's just what we're calling her on Reddit, like as a joke. Or is Nick one of us? Like, did someone sneak him a cell phone? Is he on Reddit somehow? Nick's one of my 2 favorite guys. Spoiler alert. The other one obviously is Ace, but I love a Pisces man. This show, however, is a cautionary tale that you should never, ever trust a Pisces man because he has no idea what's going on in the world in general and in his own life. But back to Belle-Dasha, a 22-year-old who says that she's from Honolulu, Hawaii, but spent most of her life in Oregon, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I think someone said that her mom is Filipino, so maybe she feels like claiming the South Pacific Islands is more realistic to her heritage. I don't know. I just simply don't really understand. Belle-Dasha was born on July 29th, 2002 in some city in Oregon. I'm actually not quite sure where, but she is a Leo sun and an Aries moon. I don't have birth times for any of these people, so we don't have risings and the moons aren't exact. So when I looked at aspects, I didn't look at any aspects to the moon for any of these charts. If anyone has birth times for these people and would like to share them, I would love that, but I don't think it's too important for the level of analysis that I'm doing in these videos. And wow, is Bella ever a Leo? Her little speech that she gave to Huda in the hideaway where she was crying about how like she shines so brightly, but everyone always overlooks her life. And it's not just something that happened with Nick, but it's something that's happened to her throughout her whole life, is so Leo.
And you have high values.
I just feel like my value gets looked over.
Don't
like,
change.
I
Do
know
not.
That I'm a high value person, and I just feel like it's like not just by people here, but it's something that I've dealt with.
You're just around the wrong people.
It's ridiculous. Like Leo is literally ruled by the sun. It's like light. Like these people have such a radiant light and they need it to be recognized by others. Otherwise, they literally crash out, which we saw in the speakeasy. Also, I love Huda so much. The girl's a little delusional, but I think that Huda and Chelley beautifully represent 2 different types of Virgo women. But Huda in this scene shows that Virgo women are incredibly loyal friends. They will always be there for you. They will always hype you up, even when you're being a little crazy. She's like, no, girl, it is totally fine. You are just not hanging out with the right people if they don't see your light. And it is good advice. And I really wanted it to be inspirational, but I was just watching it and I was like, neither of these girls really understand what life is. And it's like, yeah, they're 22 and 24. I'm not expecting them to have a huge grasp on life yet, but I'm really glad that they can be there for each other, and hopefully that Huda was able to help Bella. The first thing I noticed in Bella's birth chart is that her Pluto is exactly conjunct her south node in the sign of Sagittarius, which also means that her Pluto is opposite her north node in the sign of Gemini. In your birth chart, the nodal axis has a lot to do with past lives and destiny, and your south node represents what you did in your past life. It represents things that come really easy to you in this lifetime and that you're probably inclined to do. But your challenge in this lifetime is to move away from that and towards your north node. So Bella's Pluto being conjunct her south node, which is the point of past lives and of releasing, indicates that her past life had a really strong Pluto influence. This is someone who, from very early in their lifetime, has been very inclined to analyze things deeply. It's someone who's always had a strong interest in psychology and the occult and mysteries. And it's someone who has a really strong intuition and sees through lies very easily. This, I think, comes up when Nick is telling her, like, yeah, I'm basically like 50-50 interested in Cierra and in you. Bella doesn't handle the situation the best, but clearly can see that he's not telling the truth. Like he's very interested in Cierra. He's just trying to string Bella along, and she's not having it. And I feel like this situation unfortunately reinforces her natural inclinations to assume people are lying and to hyperanalyze people and to go for like scorpionic personalities, because she likes that mystery and she likes being able to unravel a mystery and figure out what it means. But in order to reach her destiny and move towards something that's really going to be good for her, she needs to find a grounded, like, Taurus kind of person. Honestly, Jeremiah's a Taurus, and maybe they would even be good together. Although he might just be like a narcissist love bomber, so I hesitate to tell anyone to go talk to Jeremiah, but whatever. But someone who has that Taurian energy of being very grounded and not making you read multiple layers of meaning into what they say. Just someone who says what they mean and means what they say and isn't going to make you guess. This is hard for Bella. It's hard for people with South Node conjunct Pluto, but you have to do hard things in life in order to get to where you need to go. Like, life is not supposed to be easy walk in the sunshine. It is supposed to challenge you and make you evolve. And that's the evolution that she needs to do. This Pluto South Node conjunction is exactly trine Bella's Mercury in Leo, which I think really comes across. Like, Mercury making a trine to this conjunction gives me vibes of someone who talks to everyone like they're suspicious of them. And I feel like that's what we've seen a lot of from Bella so far. I just feel like she hasn't really shown her authentic self. And speaking of that, I don't think she's shown her authentic accent either, because what is going on with her voice? It is all over the place. People have been saying that she has like a Toronto accent, which is like influenced by patois, but she's from Oregon. And so I'm not sure if anyone from Oregon can tell me if this is like a normal accent for a white girl to have. That would be great, because until then, I'm reading it as a black scent and something that is like definitely not okay for her to be doing. But Bella does have Saturn in Gemini, which is the sign of communication, which tells me that she has problems communicating. This, of course, is not only to do with her 75 different styles of speaking, but also just she probably has always felt like she is unable to put her feelings into words that accurately communicate what she's thinking. And she's super, super young. Like, her Saturn return isn't for another 7 or so years. But once she gets there, I really think that Saturn's going to kick her ass around this stuff. And it's going to be like, you need to communicate in a way that is authentic to you. And it's going to forcibly rip out every single part of her self-expression that isn't authentic to who she is, unless she manages to do it first. So we'll see what happens there. But it's really confusing. We never get the same Bella twice. It's very weird. And then she also has a 29-degree Jupiter in Cancer, which is where Jupiter is exalted. And as such, she is going to have her Jupiter return this summer, which is a time of like luck and abundance. I don't even know if she's going to be sticking around on this show much longer, because she won't even kiss anyone. And, guys don't seem to like someone unless they bring in a nice Christian guy for her, which I really hope they don't. I don't think she's going to stick around much longer. But she is going to have some luck and abundance this summer, and maybe that's just related to gaining a lot of Instagram followers and getting a lot of really expensive brand deals, which like good for her. If anyone wants to offer me any expensive brand deals, I am so open for business. It's not even funny. So having her Jupiter at 29 degrees, the anaretic degree of Cancer, indicates that she does have a lot of luck in this lifetime. She has a lot of abundance and luck. Jupiter is very strongly placed in her chart. However, she has it in a way that probably feels, once again, like being misunderstood. One of the reasons that planets, when they hit the 29th degree, the anaretic degree, feel so like melancholy and lonely is because there's nowhere else for them to go, just into the next sign. So they've reached a point at the sign where most other people don't really understand what that's like because their planets aren't there. And so they have to learn like one last karmic lesson related to this planet before they can start something new, which overall I think just fits into her narrative. I think she's always felt misunderstood. She's felt suspicious of people. She's felt like she can't really be herself, but she's a Leo and has a Leo Mercury, a sign of so much like self-expression. Like she's being held back from her destiny by her insecurities and her suspicion. But being 22, she has a long time to figure out how this works for her, so I don't think she's going to have any problems. Next up, we have Chelley, our Haitian Floridian queen, literally most gorgeous woman in the whole entire world. Every time she's on screen, I just can't help but giggle and kick my feet. I just love her so much. And wonderful news, Chelley is gay. She's openly bisexual. And more wonderful news, Chelley is a Virgo sun and a Gemini moon, just like me. And boy, is it inspiring and healing to watch a Virgo sun, Gemini moon woman on my screen who's gay, who's gorgeous, who's smart, and see a woman who is sure of herself and puts herself first and isn't falling over her feet for any guy who will look her way and doesn't seem to be racked by anxiety, as Virgo sun, Gemini moons tend to be with all of that Mercury influence. It's like, I want to be you when I grow up. She's a little younger than me, but I still do want to be her when I grow up. Although I think that Chelley has a lot more going on beneath the surface than what we see. And this is for two specific reasons. The first one is that she has her Chiron at 29 degrees of Libra. And similar to what I was just saying about Bella, having a Chiron at 29 degrees means you have a type of wound that other people can't understand. You have like a more advanced type of wound, Chiron being the wounded healer, that you have a really hard time. Like it's the wounded healer. So her wound has taught her a lot about herself. And it's in the sign of Libra, which is all about relationships and marriage and harmony and balance and people. So it's probably a wound that's related to like abandonment or relationship issues. And she is able, because it's at 29 degrees, to talk about her healing journey in such an advanced way. She has so much intellect and so much insight around this. But because she's so advanced in her healing journey, it's lonely. She can't really talk about it and feel understood by that many people because people generally, especially around her age, she's 27 and all the guys on this island are so young. She has a really hard time feeling understood when she talks about the ways that she's struggled in the past. Chelley also has her sun in Virgo making a square to her Pluto in Sagittarius. A sun-Pluto aspect reminds me of Katy Perry, who has sun conjunct Pluto, but a square is a little less intense than a conjunction, so probably a little less. Plus, Katy Perry has 8 Scorpio placements, and it's just scary. I'm like, Chelley, I'm so sorry for comparing you to Katy Perry, but I was just thinking about it for this specific aspect because sun in a hard aspect like a square with Pluto is someone who takes pains to hide themselves. Chelley is extroverted, and she said so herself on the most recent episode, but you can be extroverted and still not share your real self with the world. Like, this is giving me the vibes of someone who you can know for literally years and feel like you know them really well, but actually not really know them at all because you only know the things that they have allowed you to learn about them. Like, they have created a place to hide in plain sight because they feel really vulnerable if they share too many of their secrets. On the positive side, these are people who are really powerful. They're super charming and they have a very magnetic presence, which I think is pretty obviously true of Chelley. But interestingly, Sun and Pluto can tell you about a problem with your father or father figure. So I'm interested to know if that is related to Chelley's 29 degree Chiron wound, if it's some sort of like emotionally abusive dad or just like an abandonment wound by a father or a father figure. Basically, I'm trying to see if she's just like me in this respect too. I'm like, Chelley, you're my girl. Do you have an emotionally abusive dad too? We can talk about it together. Please love me. But Chelley's entering her Saturn return period right now. Her Saturn is in Aries, and Saturn just moved into Aries on May 24th. So she's now in that realm. Her Saturn is pretty late in Aries, so it won't be exact for a while, but it's coming up. And I'm excited to see what transformation she goes through to become even more beautiful and powerful and smart and perfect. And then we move on to Huda, someone whose freckles are so freaking cute and beautiful, and I just want to know if they're real or not. Huda was born on August 30th, 2000 in Raleigh, North Carolina. The first thing we can see is this really big red X through her chart. She has some strong, tense, difficult aspects, and I can see it. Being a single mom at such a young age, she had her kid when she was 19, is not easy. And so I'm not surprised to see that she has difficult aspects in her birth chart. The first aspect I'll talk about is this exact opposition between Mars in Leo and Uranus in Aquarius. The physical manifestation of Mars opposing Uranus is like a hyperactive energy, someone who seems like their nervous system is pretty hypervigilant and highly strung. And I think it's just so interesting how real astrology is, because Huda definitely comes off that way to me. And it's certainly amplified by the fact that she's a Virgo sun, which is just an anxious, hypervigilant placement. This is someone who knows exactly what they want and is ready to go get it. And they're going to take the shortest route to it too. They don't like to follow all the rules and all the steps. They are going to take the most effective route. So this is where I'm getting a little bit like, is Huda like a love bombing narcissist who is obsessed with Jeremiah and trying to get him to fall in love with her? Or is Huda just really looking for the love of her life and looking for someone to be a father to her child, and saw Jeremiah and was like, well, that's what I want. And then just started going for it because that's who she is. That's what Mars Uranus is. And now we're 3 days in and she's about to have the most monumental crash out in the whole entire world because Jeremiah definitely doesn't want to be a father. Only time will tell. I'm really excited for tonight's episode. I really want to see how this goes. Honestly, Huda's chart is really telling me a story, but that story is about pain. But the story is about growth through pain. You know, it's about pain that helps her evolve and to become a stronger and better and more mature person. She keeps saying that she's emotionally mature, which is usually not something that emotionally mature people have to say. And I fear that she is really going to learn a hard lesson about emotional maturity. But eventually she is going to get there. It's just not going to be easy, nor is it going to be pretty. Huda has her Venus at 29 degrees of Virgo, and Virgo is the sign of Venus's fall because Venus is exalted in the opposite sign of Pisces. And fall for planets is like jail. It's also called exile. Venus, where it's exalted in Pisces, is like Venus on a throne doing its absolute best, ruling over its kingdom. And then in Virgo, it's in jail. It just doesn't really have the room to do anything that it wants to do. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is a lot about information and knowledge. And Venus is love and beauty. Like, it doesn't really know what to do when it's in this sign. Having a 29-degree Venus means that you're going to learn an important karmic lesson about Venus domain. So love and beauty and harmony and relationships in this lifetime, that especially for her, I think is going to manifest as a real crisis in the realm of relationships. Could we see that crisis tonight? Literally, maybe. It's so much fun to experience astrology playing out on reality television. But having her Venus at 29 degrees here, I also believe is why she thinks she's emotionally mature. I think that she's had Venus-related experiences that she feels no one else can understand because they're just so much more developed than anyone else's understanding of Venus principles. And that makes her feel mature, but that's not actual maturity. That's not going through experiences and learning from them. That's just a placement that she had natally. It's just a feeling that she has had her whole life and that she's going to have her whole life. This feeling that no one really understands what she's been through. But that is different from maturity, and that's a lesson that she's going to have to learn. Plus, she has this Virgo stellium where she has her sun, moon, Mercury, and Venus in Virgo. A lot of these people were born on new moons, which I think is really interesting. She's just a person who's like riddled with anxiety, but also feels very much like capable and smart and mature, but isn't necessarily that way. She just has the bones of the structure, but she needs to learn that you have to actually build on these things. And I'm sure she's learned a ton of lessons over her time being a mom. I just don't feel like she's really integrated them at this point. But she's super young. She's only 24. She has so much time. She also has her Pluto conjunct her Chiron, and then this conjunction exactly opposite her Jupiter in Gemini. We talked very recently in the Kardashians episode about Jupiter-Pluto aspects because Kris Jenner also has a similar aspect. And it's all about wealth in buried matter. And whether that's literal, if it's someone who makes money from oil and mining, which I don't think applies to Huda, or metaphorical, metaphysical, taking the buried matter in your subconscious and making money from it. I think that's pretty explicitly literal for someone who is making money from being on Love Island and then getting brand deals, etc. But this Pluto conjunction with her Chiron really tells me that she has a wound that is so deep. Pluto is the underworld. Pluto is what lies beneath, and Chiron is your wounded healer. Her wound is not something that's physical. Her wound is not something that she can feel on an emotional level. Her wound is something that is in such a deep, deep part of her that's going to require her to transform, experience a metaphorical death and rebirth and transformation over and over again. But through that process, she is going to become really good at healing other people and helping other people go through their own transformations. She's experienced so much at such a young age. I mean, it's not really common for people to have babies at 19 anymore. So she's sort of like speed running emotional growth and the emotional journey that she has to go on. But at age 24, she doesn't really know how to do that yet. But this is really like a, if you never bleed, you're never going to grow placement. She's going to transform a lot. She's going to become a completely different person than we see her right now, but it's not going to be easy. But she has a little bit of help from her Saturn at 0 degrees of Gemini. Saturn at 0 degrees is honestly quite similar to this Mars-Uranus opposition in the way that she knows her goals. She came into this world. She was like, I know what I want and I'm ready to go get it. Saturn at 0 degrees has a little bit of Aries energy imbued into it. It's someone who's not jaded. They're not melancholic. They don't feel like nobody understands them. They feel like they have unlimited energy to set goals and get what they want, and they're ready to go do it. I have a very strong belief that Huda is going to go get what she wants in this lifetime. And then we have the last but certainly not least of the OG girls, my sweet Olandria, Gemini queen, absolutely crushing it. Her and Taylor are actually both Geminis, and I seem to think that that's the only reason they get along at all. They don't seem to be attracted to each other or have that much in common, but they can both talk, and that's a Gemini thing. Olandria is also entering her Saturn return period, as she also has Saturn in Aries, the complete opposite of Huda's basically. It's at 29 degrees of Aries, which is once again a lonely and misunderstood placement. But with Saturn here, it's probably like she feels like she has bumped up against so many boundaries in her lifetime and felt so constrained in her lifetime. Saturn is boundaries and constraint, that no one really can understand what she's been through. No one can understand the challenges that she's experienced as she's tried to go get what she wants. And so she can feel misunderstood in this way. But she has a Gemini sun, so she's a talkative girl. I don't think that it's easy to see this melancholy aspect of herself on the surface. I think it's something that she hides. But she also does most likely have a Cancer moon, which is the moon in its home sign, which is very powerful, but also just like very in touch with her feelings and very intuitive and almost psychic. And so I think that there's a lot more to Olandria that we haven't seen yet, and I'm very excited to see it. However, that Huda Olandria situation at the bonfire during the second episode was so Gemini.
I don't like this. I don't like this. Y'all deserve some real men.
Girl, you don't have to play that.
What do you mean?
I'm saying, like, we're not upset.
No, I'm just saying.
No, you've been supportive. I love that, but it's okay. I have a nice little chat. Okay. Later. That's fine.
Huda's starting to go off and saying, like, you girls deserve better men. And Olandria is saying, that's not necessary to say. It's fine. And that's just a Gemini speaking her mind. Genuinely, she meant nothing bad at it. She apologized at the beginning of the 3rd episode because she did mean nothing bad by it. It wasn't meant to be a personal attack. She was just saying, as a Gemini, the things that you're saying are whack and don't need to be said. And that's just what a Gemini does. In addition to having her Sun and Mars in Gemini, she also has her Mercury in Taurus, making a sextile to her Jupiter in Pisces. I just absolutely love this in combination with a Gemini Sun because it acts in a similar way. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is touching Jupiter, the planet of expansion and abundance. And so this is broadening the mind. And literally, no one has a broader mind than a Gemini. She's able to see things from every single perspective possible. She's super chatty. She's always got her mind going a million miles a minute. I love her so much. The last thing I'm going to talk about in her chart is that she has her Sun conjunct her Mars in Gemini, which also has a very similar energy to the Mars-Uranus opposition that Huda has in her chart. This is a mark of someone who has a great personality, someone who's really an individual, someone who's a leader and not a follower, someone who is a participant and not a bystander. This is someone who knows what they want and is going to get it, taking the most efficient route possible, not following all the steps you're supposed to take. Once again, very similar to Mars opposite Uranus. This is also a sign of someone who is very ambitious and very competitive and who wants to get the things that they want to get before anyone else. They always want to be first. So I think Olandria is really one to watch this season. I think she has a lot of personality and smarts and drive and ambition. And I think that she is going to go after what she wants and she's going to get it. Honestly, they better bring a guy in for her sometime soon, but I think that she has the ability to win this season right off the bat. And then we move on to Cierra, our first bombshell and someone who is definitely going to stick around for a long time. She's beautiful. She's the flirtiest woman in the world. She's perfect. And I love that for her. Cierra is a Libra sun and a Libra moon, and therefore the flirtiest person in the whole entire world. And it's so fun to see her and Nick together because with her air sign influence and with Nick's being a Pisces, neither of these people have a single foot on the ground. Their conversations are so funny. Nick doesn't even know what's going on, and Cierra doesn't care about what's real and what isn't. She will talk about anything and she will flirt with anyone. And I know I said at the beginning that I no longer take notes on how these people behave and try to replicate them in my own life, but I am going to keep in mind her line, "Oh, earlier you were saying something to me. You were like giving me a compliment, something about how I'm like beautiful or gorgeous," and then getting that man to repeat the compliment. Literally perfection. Put it in all of the playbooks. We need to write a version of the game for women and just ask Cierra what we should put in there. Cierra has Venus, Jupiter, Neptune, and Chiron all at 1 degree in her birth chart. This isn't 0 degrees, but I am getting the impression that she has a very youthful energy. She doesn't have this melancholic, jaded, feeling misunderstood that you get with having 29 degree placements. She has this like 1 degree, like youthful, let's get started, coming from a place of freshness and innocence. It sort of gives the vibe that this is one of the first lives that her soul has experienced. Cierra has her Jupiter in Taurus making a square to her Neptune in Aquarius, which is an altruistic combination. It's someone who really wants to do things for the good of the world. It's someone who can have a little bit of a martyr complex, who wants to sacrifice themselves for the good of other people. It's someone who has a lot of compassion and empathy and a bent toward humanitarian causes. We know from Sierra's Instagram bio that she's a Puerto Rican Mexican queen and that she's a Kamala voter. And I'm really just hoping to see a lot of using her platform for good. I think that would be really refreshing from a lot of the people's social media presence that come from TV, specifically Yulissa, obviously, who's the worst, and Austin, who is hopefully gone tonight, who is a Trump supporter and also the worst. And has sent thousands of nudes somehow, like probably 0% of which were solicited. That is really disgusting. I'm so glad they had that game so the girls could see what a menace to society he is. He belongs in prison. The extreme of this aspect is spiritual pride and arrogance and almost feeling like a god. But because she has all of these 1-degree placements, I really don't think that she takes these things too far. I think that she has it pretty balanced and trying to use her powers for good, but we'll see over time. And this also represents a feeling of a yearning for mysticism or having mystical experiences. Kris Jenner also has a similar aspect, and I talked in that episode about how it's an aspect that is usually shared by like nuns and monks. I don't think that Cierra is a monk or a nun, but I do think that she has a really good grasp on things that are intangible. I think that she loves mysticism. She loves to think about things in abstract ways. And these are people who can also use mysticism as escapism to get away from their worldly responsibilities and their worldly lives. I don't necessarily think this is always a bad thing. I think that people need to do a little escapism, especially in our current climate. But once again, I'm just not getting the feeling that she takes these things too far. I'm feeling like she's pretty down to earth and grounded as much as she can be for being a Libra sun and moon. Now that I've covered all of the girls' birth charts, I did just want to look at a little bit of synastry to see what's going on with our couples early in the game. And of course, the first couple that I want to look at is Huda and Jeremiah. This is Huda and Jeremiah's synastry. Huda is the blue icons and Jeremiah is the orange. As you can see, Jeremiah definitely has a Gemini moon. The moon was in Gemini for the entire day that he was born. Huda has a very slight chance that she could be a Libra moon, but she is most likely, unless she was born at like 11:30 or later p.m., she is most likely a Virgo moon. But once again, if anyone has birth certificates or birth times for these people, I would be much appreciative. They were born pretty close to each other in date. So their Uranuses are almost conjunct, their Neptunes are almost conjunct, and their Plutos and Chirons are basically conjunct. So ignoring those because that's more of a generational placement. They honestly have a lot of positive aspects. They could have a very good relationship. I'm not quite sure what is going to go on. I really think that what happened is that they met each other and they were like, if we couple up day one and we just like work together, we can win this whole thing by having the longest running relationship. But they didn't go, like they're just speed running it. They're not actually having any of the experiences of the couples that get together at the beginning and end up winning. Like Serena and Cordell had this whole like, we're doing a slow burn friends thing, and then they really fought and then they got back together. They're just speed running it, and now it's going badly because Huda hid that she had a child for the first several days and told Jeremiah, and he freaked out and he was like, you really do? You're only 24. Like, yeah, that's certainly not helpful, and her kid is almost 5. But Huda's sun in Virgo is trine Jeremiah's Venus in Taurus, which is a really positive aspect. It indicates that both people feel content and happy with each other. Huda's Venus in Virgo is trine Jeremiah's Mars in Gemini, which indicates that they have a strong sexual attraction to each other and that they have a sense of cooperation and harmony in their relationship. Huda's Mercury in Virgo makes a trine to Jeremiah's Sun in Taurus, which indicates that they can communicate really well. Her Mercury in Virgo also makes a trine to Jeremiah's Jupiter in Taurus, which indicates that they have a lot of like the same beliefs. Mercury is like the smaller mind and Jupiter is like the higher mind. Mercury is like day-to-day, Jupiter is like philosophy. So they understand each other's points of view and they can speak easily about both small things and large things. Except maybe child, but very funny. Jeremiah's last TikTok that he posted before going on Love Island was like, someone left this baby with me. Why would they trust me with the baby? I just want to have fun. And it's like, oh, yeah, this is just probably not a guy who's ready to have a kid. And that is completely fine. I'm 31 and I'm never going to be ready for a kid. I just don't want them. Like, it's a little bit crazy to spring, by the way, we've been dating for 4 days and I have a child, on someone on Love Island. I don't know. But they also have some aspects that indicate that they would have trouble in a relationship. The first one is that Huda's Neptune in Aquarius makes a square to Jeremiah's Venus in Taurus. And what happens here is basically what we've seen on our screen. Like Neptune is the planet of illusions and deceptions. So Venus really idealizes the Neptune person. Jeremiah has idealized Huda and made her into the person that he wants her to be. And the Neptune person, Huda, obscures herself and becomes the person that Venus, Jeremiah, has idealized her to be. It's like maximum people pleasing. And this does cause some like magnetism and charm and electric connection in the relationship, but it's also not going to work once Huda stops pretending to be the person that Jeremiah wants her to be, and once Jeremiah realizes that his idealized version of Huda is not who she actually is. Huda's Mars in Leo also makes a square to Jeremiah's Saturn in Taurus, which is very interesting because it's an aspect that attracts two people together, but it attracts them together because they each have lessons that the other person needs to learn. It's a mutual attraction for the purpose of a karmic lesson exchange. Like there's things that they need to learn in this lifetime, and each of them is the right teacher for the other person. There are more things that they have exact. They have like 11 exact aspects, but overall, I'm excited to see what happens tonight. They didn't give us a preview, which I'm going to assume means shit goes down. Anyway, I'm really excited for this season. I'm excited to do astrology analysis of the connections. I'm excited to figure out what makes people come together and what makes them break up. I'm excited to see what makes people get eliminated and what makes people stay on the show. I just love astrology and I love using it to analyze reality television. So if you would like to book an astrology reading with me, you can do so on my website at popstrologypod.com. You can also shoot me an email to popstrology@protonwithme anytime, and you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at popstrologypod. I would also love if you subscribed and commented and supported my work. I've left my full-time job to do astrology full-time. This is a new thing, and I'm just starting to build my business, so I really appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much for being here. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.